You are listening to Fantha tracks.
He's waiting.
Classic Star Wars and the collectibles they gave us. From vintage Star Wars to the modern era of the saga. This is Collecting Tracks. Here are your hosts, Richard Hutchinson and Chris Leddy.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Collecting Tracks. I'm Richard Hutchinson.
And I'm Chris Leddy.
And we're your hosts for episode 8, Ahsoka and the Collectibles. Now Chris, where did you get that name from? Because you put that one in the show notes.
I know, I can't say I'm the most creative when it comes to show titles, but you know, I was messing around even with like Chat GPT and all that stuff, and it brought up these huge stories and descriptions. I'm like, why don't I just use exactly what we're talking about, Ahsoka and the Collectibles? and then I said it out loud. I'm like, that kind of seems like that would be a cool band name, you know. Like, it just seems like it fits in line with, you know, that area.
Oh, absolutely. And Droopy McCool on pianos and, you know.
It's good. Yeah, I like it.
Now, obviously, you've just alluded there to what the show's about. Thought it'd be a good time to have a look at Ahsoka Collectibles. But obviously, we can't do that without touching on Ahsoka and who she is and where she's come from. And we also can't do that without at least trying to keep spoiler-free as possible, but acknowledging the show. So, Chris, it's been quite a while since we recorded. We've been up to a lot since then. Are you back in full swing now? Vacation's over, kids back at school?
Oh yeah. Everything. Summer's over. Kids are back at school, and you know how it goes. Just life is crazy with all their after-school activities, and the weekends are jam-packed, and it's just in the thick of it right now. So just trying to survive. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's going on, been going on in personal life. I did want to touch upon the fact that I had a chance to go see Ahsoka Episode 5 in the theaters in Boston, and I had won a VIP pass from Lucasfilm. If anybody wants to hear about that experience, I was able to chronicle it on our friend David Quinn's podcast, Star Wars Prototypes in Production, that is currently available. So had a fun time chatting with him, and it was an amazing experience.
Absolutely, and David's an awesome guy, and he absolutely loves Ahsoka. I think I remember talking to him last time. He said it's actually his favourite character from the entire saga, which I'll come back to a bit later on.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I've had obviously been crazy busy. So I've had my honeymoon in Thailand. We spent 3 weeks away, and it was absolutely awesome. You know, you name it, we did it. Swim with elephants, bathing with elephants, washing them, you know, handling tigers and things. It was such an amazing experience. Sadly, I got incredibly ill on the last 2 or 3 days of food poisoning, which is unusual for somebody who's a vegetarian, but never mind, that kind of thing always happens to me. And we had a hell of a journey out there. I don't know if I mentioned this, but my wife's ticket was in an incorrect name. So we were denied boarding, and obviously we had to get 3 flights, and I played the whole honeymoon, you know, come on. I blagged my way through every airport security check-in, but at not one point did I think of immigration in Thailand. And when we got to the passport control, I thought, it's all right, just flash your passport, you go through. Nope, it was passport and boarding card. Well, the boarding card was in a different name for my wife, so I was thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do here? You know, travel agents were absolutely useless. They didn't want to know. Emirates Airline was wonderful. They did everything they could to get me through these countries. The immigration officer just looked and waved her through. I thought, oh, jeez, couldn't believe it. So, you you can get to another country with a fake name. We've just proven it. But yes, had a wonderful time. Have had a couple of opportunities to go and see Ahsoka on the big screen, but sadly for me, and obviously with the Fantha Tracks crew, we always get London tickets. And it's a 5-hour drive for me to get down to London, so I could have seen episode 1 and 2, but I just gave that one a miss. But I turned down episode 5, and I should have took that one because I was actually off work. So never mind, because episode 5, what an episode! I'd love to have seen that one on the big screen, but you live and learn.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's only an hour to Boston from where I live in New Hampshire in the States, so I could justify it. But yeah, I agree. I should tell you, it was an amazing experience in the theater
Bet you.
for sure.
Absolutely. All right then. So Ahsoka, then not everybody knows who Ahsoka is. I'm sure there's somebody listening to this who's just heard of whispers of Ahsoka and knows a little bit about it, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's that Twi'lek from the cartoons, etc., etc. So let's dive into the background first, then, Chris. So where did Ahsoka come from? What was her history, and when did you first make her appearance?
Yeah, I'll just give like a brief rundown, but she was created by Dave Filoni in the pre-production process for the Clone Wars, and he had kind of made up a bunch of different characters that were going to be part of this group that were essentially going to be the leads of what the initial plans of the show were. And he called her Ashla, and her appearance looked very similar to Jedi Shakti. And so he presented all these characters to George Lucas, and George said, nope, this is how it's going to be. She's going to actually be Anakin Skywalker's Padawan. And then they reworked her name and came up with Ahsoka Tano. She's actually a Togruta alien species. Then they cast Ashley Eckstein as the voice of the character. Then we ended up seeing her first appearance was in the Clone Wars, the movie, in 2008, around, I think it's like September timeframe. But yeah, that's where she came into fandom, into Star Wars. Yeah.
Now, from memory, Chris, when that movie was released, it wasn't really that well accepted, and I certainly know that I came out of that thinking, well, it was decent enough. But by the episode 5 or 6 of the Clone Wars cartoon series, I was far more invested, and there was quite a lot of backlash against Ashley Eckstein, and I think her husband is he a famous baseball player or something?
Yeah, he was famously won the World Series MVP for the St. Louis Cardinals, wow. but he actually came up through the Boston Red Sox farm system.
Had to get that in there.
Oh yeah.
and yep. I think I remember hearing on Rebel Force Radio or something similar that her husband had said, look, if you're going to be putting yourself out there, you just don't read social media because it's 99% negative. And, she was quite upset, I think, initially at the backlash that Ahsoka got, because she was heavily invested. So what are your thoughts when you first saw Ahsoka and then learned that Anakin had a Padawan?
Yeah, back then I was in such a different place in life and everything that I saw the movie and I'm like, oh, cool. That's, it's this new character and stuff like that. And I did think it was odd that Anakin was going to get this, he was going to have to teach, this young Padawan, and I thought it was odd at the time, but it was a whole new story and everything. But for me, like my fandom, I didn't end up watching I didn't watch the series as it was coming out. So that was like really the last thing that I had done. And I kind of took a break from collecting and from Star Wars after seeing that movie for a long time. So it was just this weird thing then to come back to it in like 2015 and then absorb the Clone Wars and stuff. So yeah, just a different experience for me at the time. But I mean, in hindsight, it makes sense, but I'm sure like back then the fandom and everything was all up in arms and, that sort of thing.
To be honest with you, I didn't really notice the up in arms other than I came out of the movie and I think I took my daughter probably at the time, 2008, probably her, and we thought it was okay, it was decent, we enjoyed it, but we weren't really eagerly awaiting the Clone Wars. Yeah. And then the first episode came out and it was okay, second episode okay, but by the time we got to episode 6, we were blown away and we were like, wow, this is really good. And that's when we started getting invested in the new characters like Ahsoka and the spin that Dave put, obviously with George's tutorage on some of the classic characters that we knew. And then, probably, it must have been a good year or so later, that's when Rebel Force Radio really got into the Ashley Eckstein and Dave Filoni podcasts, and we heard about the backlash. And I saw little bits online, but not a lot. But I think the internet back then wasn't as vicious as it is now. I kind of missed most of that backlash because I was absorbed in my own EU at the time. So to me, I was talking about Thrawn and Mara Jade, and Callista and, all these characters that to me, Ahsoka was just another group of characters. I didn't for 1 second dream that Ahsoka would become such a fan favourite and, and have its own TV series, etc. I also thought Thrawn maybe one day would do, and that was because back then everyone was talking about, well, why haven't we seen the Heir to the Empire movie? Everyone was wanting the movie. And then somebody killed that for me online by saying, great books, but really, would it make a good movie? And that crushed me because I thought, you're right. You're talking right, but never mind.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't really bothered about Anakin having a Padawan because I think that upset a lot of people, and there's no reason why he shouldn't have had a Padawan. So I thought that was a good call, that from George, and I didn't realise that was George's call. I thought David suggested that, but yeah, George gets it right again.
I know, right? He always has, he has, for the most part with all his character choices and the like. But yeah, I mean, it's a different time back then in fandom with minimal social media presence and that sort of thing. You wonder what things would have been like if the series had come out, 5, 6, 7 years later, and how it would have been perceived. And but I think it was the right time to come out with the Clone Wars. And like looking back, I feel like the Clone Wars just gives so much depth to the prequel trilogy that it's like invaluable now. And I put it all together and it just makes so much more sense. And I think it, especially with what we've seen, more recently with some of the other live action content, I think it just continues to build. It built on what George had created in live action, but just in a different form in animation.
I mean, absolutely. That's absolutely rung true with me, that what you've said there, and that the Clone Wars has really enhanced the prequels. And I think those who watched the Clone Wars have a far greater appreciation of those the prequel movies. I suppose the originals as well, with the lead up to it. Yeah, absolutely nailed that one. Now, the Clone Wars has seen some of the greatest Star Wars storylines and some of the greatest Star Wars TV, and equally it's seen some of the absolute worst as well. But you expect that in 7 seasons, most of them were 24 episodes in. I mean, that's a lot of shows, a lot of shows. But we saw Ahsoka evolve a lot through the seasons. And as you'd expect, those who stuck with the Clone Wars, when you got season 5, season 6, you start to see the darker tones coming through. You saw the change in Anakin. And Ahsoka was really conflicted, I think, at times. So how do you think a character developed over those years? I mean, she had to grow up very fast.
Yeah, she did. She was put through so much, from being thrown right into battle, from the beginning, and then learning how to navigate, this war, and becoming a general and being in charge of hundreds and thousands of clone troopers, and then having to go on her own missions and protect, the likes of, Padme and from assassins, and protecting other Jedi younglings and Padawans, being hunted down, and just like all these different things. And then ultimately her being falsely accused of bombing the Jedi Temple, with Barriss Offee and Asajj Ventress involved, and having to go through that trial, and then, having to make the biggest decision of her life up to that point, and to reject the Jedi, and going back to them, and having to forge her own path outside of the Jedi Order, and then having to struggle with all those things internally with Anakin. And, we saw recently in the live action series, her dealing with some of that stuff. But, we got 7 seasons of Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, and that was a lot of time on screen for the character to grow We don't have too many other characters that we've seen that much, whether it's animation or live action, as Ahsoka.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. Well done.
One of our friends, Andy Spoons Norton, who has that great diecast website, he said that Ahsoka is the only character that you actually see develop from really, really young right the way through adulthood. So he says it's obvious that people have got a natural connection with her. For me, though, the connection that I have with Star Wars, it's always going to be Luke and Vader and Emperor's Wild Gods and that kind of thing, because that's what stuck me with time. However, I thought it was interesting that somebody who's almost 50 and in the same age bracket as me has actually specifically said no, Ahsoka's one of his top 3 characters, and I think that shows to the wonderful imagination that George has had, together with Dave Filoni continuing that on.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean she's my favorite character. Used to be Luke, but he's a close second. Like you said, we've seen so much of her past, even with the short series, The Tales of the Jedi. We even saw how before she even came to the Jedi, her early experiences with the Force. And so, I mean, we've got quite a bit of her life available to us in these various forms. So, yeah, I mean, she stops for me, and but it's I can see where a lot of people fall in line with that and kind of have shifted, because they depending on the people's age they have gotten in, they either got in with her at the right similar age when she made her first appearance and kind of grew up with her, or retrospectively looking back at things and being able to look at what she's been through, more seasoned eyes, and kind of reminisce about what we have personally gone through in our lives, and kind of like making that connection on various levels.
I'm glad you brought up Tales of the Jedi, because I hoped it was going to happen at some point, because when I watched that Tales of the Jedi's episode, I thought, you know what, this sums up for me Dave Filoni's biggest weakness, and I'm prepared to take any backlash from this whatsoever. But Dave Filoni cannot wrap up a storyline. He can't do it. So as soon as Ahsoka walked away, we knew it wasn't the end. It's not the end of Ezra. Thrawn is not Dave Filoni's to end anyway, so I'm not blaming him on that one. But he can't wrap things up for me. He just has to leave things open-ended. And I say it's a weakness because I lose the emotional connection in that kind of way. So Ahsoka, even if she gets beheaded at the end of Ahsoka, I still expect a season 2 of Ahsoka. I mean, she'll be in there somewhere. And when I've said this to friends, I've said, yeah, but George was the same. And I thought, well, no, he wasn't, because George killed off so many characters. He killed a lot. He killed off Ben Kenobi. I mean, yes, came as a Force ghost. He killed off Yoda, but that came back in the sequels. He
killed off Darth Maul and came back.
There are examples. I get that, but if you just look at all your collect 96 action figures or 101 or however many you're going to say they are, most of them are dead. Most of them have been killed off by George. But obviously, we did see her come back, and it wasn't a surprise at all she come back. We expected her in Rebels, which was the next, big, long episodic TV show. Started off for me a bit weak. Wasn't really invested in it. I thought it was just too much when, you'd see people crushing Stormtrooper helmets with their bare hands and things, and I thought that. And Stormtroopers couldn't hit anything. I mean, that took it to the extreme. You were standing 2 meters away and they were still missing. But however, that also evolved, and it got almost Clone Wars-like in its feel, even though it wasn't styled in the same way.
Sure.
And then when she came back, I thought it was a good introduction and a good way to bring her back.
Yeah, I agree, because I talked about it with David on his podcast about how her coming in at that specific time, she had already been working behind the scenes in contact with Bail Organa as Fulcrum, doing what she could to build up the strength of this, this rebellion that was forming and stuff. And then clearly her position coming into this, the Ghost, helping out the Ghost crew was much needed at that time to put them over the edge of, giving them the knowledge and the abilities to push through against the Empire. I thought, that was crazy for her when she arrived into the scene. I remember my jaw dropping, like could not believe it. I really enjoyed her role on the series, and then especially it kind of plays into what happened on, in live action on the Ahsoka series. Her confrontation with Vader, the twilight of the apprentice. I mean, that's one of my favorite arcs in all of Star Wars. Her confronting him, on, I forget, was it Malachor, one of those Sith planets, and going through all that, the internal struggles, and then having to battle him, and then going through the world between worlds, being saved. I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, I'm totally biased, but I just enjoyed that whole part of her story.
Well, Ahsoka being brought back united the different aspects of the shows and the movies. Mm-hmm. So you had these rebels who were completely opposite to everything that we knew of the rebels at the time. The old, Bevel Lemmerskip, and those have read the EU will know that he was a guy who leaked the Death Star plans or designed the Death Star from memory, I can't remember now. And the plans were leaked in different methods. So you had this group of rebels which were not connected at all to anything, and she was the one that united them all together. So the name Fulcrum's absolutely perfect. And I thought her use in the Clone Wars was really strong. I really liked that. And the duel with Darth Vader was very reminiscent, obviously, for me, of Obi-Wan's and Anakin's duel, and the emotions and everything that defended. It repeated itself, and obviously, we know ourselves, history repeats itself a lot. And that's definitely what happened in that show. So I thought she got far stronger because of Rebels. Although I wasn't a fan of the whole Ahsoka lives ? Thing, because Ahsoka lives, man. We know that. And if at the end of season 1 of Ahsoka, and we'll start to say Ahsoka lives ? Again, he's wrap a storyline up, Dave.
Just gonna keep it going, just stretch it out as long as possible.
Well, it doesn't have to be Ahsoka who gets, killed off. So, equally, Sabine could go, Hera could go. There's so many characters that Dave will just not kill off. He has to, because I need some emotion with these characters.
No, I 100% agree, and we'll potentially get to that here shortly.
All right, and so the Ahsoka show, I mean, perhaps we shouldn't discuss anything that's come out very recently, but maybe some of the first 2 episodes. I think perhaps if we touched on some of the spoilers in there, that would be fine. So, Chris, obviously, Ahsoka, you saw the trailer from the Celebration London feed. Where we were all excited about Ahsoka. Everybody was saying it was going to be the best of the Star Wars shows that were going to come out, that was announced. What have been the positives for you so far?
Okay, so positives, I will say, just on a broader spectrum, the visuals for me have been amazing, just flawless. Just everything, the look of everything, the ships, the environments, the look of the characters, costumes, like all that stuff, is normally pretty top notch with Lucasfilm and Star Wars. So all that stuff's hit. I love the music. So again, I'm pretty sure it's Kevin Kiner is doing the scoring and everything. So love all that. For me, I mean, the story, it's a little bit rocky here and there, but I mean, I can understand the trajectory of things and where they need to go. So I liked some of these missions that they're going on and that sort of thing. But as far as Ahsoka, her character, I like her being challenged, not only by, the enemy, but also, from Sabine and that sort of thing. And it's hard for me to not be spoilery, but I do have, I'm more positive than I am negative, but I am being realistic with the series. It's not all positives, I should say, but I don't know. Sorry. How about you? What's working for you?
Visually stunning. I totally agree. For world building, for background scenery, amazing. I'm not so keen on the costumes. I think every single costume we've seen has been brand spanking new. It's just come off the shelf. I would like to see, heading towards
some weathering.
Weathering and ripped and torn. I mean, this is the end of the Empire. You know, things should be looking, you know, shabby. It's
everybody's getting their clothes pressed and
exactly
cleaned before they. Yeah.
But I mean, that's nitpicking, I suppose, and people will say that's nitpicking, so that's absolutely fine. The storyline, I mean, I must admit, I didn't, and I don't like it when they repeat things like that. So the map, it's tired. It's you know, we've heard it before. What we want to see next, another heist where they've got to go and steal something from, you know. I want new plots. I wasn't a fan of the map story. I wasn't a fan of. I mean, we don't want a Mary Sue character. I mean, obviously Ray has been criticised a lot for that. We want to see flaws in characters in order to relate them more. And I think a lot of the positivity I'm seeing in this is that there are flaws in Ahsoka. She is being challenged by Sabine. She gets things wrong. She can be beaten in a lightsaber duel. You know, she doesn't win every duel. So there are some positive, real world things I can take from it. But little things annoy me, like we can use the Force to find the map by manipulating all these columns that go up and down and things, but you can't use the same trick to actually reveal the map. Just little things like that. I think, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You know, if Ahsoka was in Hellraiser, that movie would be incredibly dull because you'd be sitting in a box, looking at a square box, doing nothing. And she has to take this box to Sabine with, you know, a tiny bit of Force power, manages to open that. Sometimes things like that really irritate me. But generally, the way I look at things with Star Wars is, would I rather have it or not have it? And this one is, I'd rather have it. Some of the TV shows, you know, I could quite have said I'm not have it. So what about negatives, and Chris, what you say isn't just not working for you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with some of those particular story points. It's like, I call it like the quest within the quest within the quest. And it's just like, you need to keep on doing the thing to find the thing. And then you've got to find the person that can do the other thing. And then, like, you know, they've got to find the tool to do, you know, it's just like one thing after the other. And we've seen that, you know, we've seen that with Mandalorian. We've seen it with the sequel trilogy. So yeah, that's a little bit redundant. Some of the choices in editing, I'm having some issues with, just like the screen is just focused on something for, like, I feel like a little bit too long. Like, do we really need to look at, you know, the broken map on the ground for that long? And again, nitpicks here and there. Certainly some character choices in universe have, you know, been a little bit interesting that they've gone the way they've gone with, you know. And then also, I think the biggest thing for me is, or at least through probably about the first 4 episodes, was some of the emotion being lacking from a bunch of, you know, pretty much the main characters being pretty, you know, just like stern, and or like one level of emotion. I would like to see a little bit more emotion. You get little glimpses of it here or there from Hera or Sabine or Ahsoka, but like, it wasn't until, you know, something major happened in episode 5 where I started to see, you know, the type of emotion that I needed to see from the main character. So just nitpicky things. And I personally, like, I didn't have like super expectations going in and have like my own headcanon of what I wanted to happen. So I haven't been too dead set on what I need to see in the series. And I know I've heard from several friends that really had their ideas dead set on what they wanted to see. They've been disappointed. So I think, you know, that it's unfortunate, because that, you know, you can get kind of caught in a trap with your fandom if you go too far in what you expect from these projects. Yeah, I mean, more positives than negatives, but they're, you know, it's certainly not flawless for me.
Yeah, absolutely. More positive, negatives, definitely. I watched that first episode and I was critical of a few things. So definitely timing. There seems to be a lot of dead time where the pausing and it's unnecessary. Even, you know, a 2-second cut would be far better to quicken the pace up of some of the episodes. I find Ahsoka stands around and folds her arms a lot. And I can't say I noticed that as much in the Clone Wars. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of stern looking with the arms folded, staring straight ahead. And I tell you something, if that's the case, I want to know who irons that robes, because 5 minutes later, when she's in the scene, those robes have no creases in them. So it's quite
special Star Wars material.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing that I'm the biggest critic of is either the main characters can't act for me, or the director is directing them like that, because there's something off. I don't think they're not wooden, because I've seen a lot of people saying that the performances are wooden. I don't think they're wooden, but I watched the Wheel of Time season 2, so I don't know if you saw the Wheel of Time season 1. The Wheel of Time season 1 for me wasn't very good, so I wasn't really desperate to watch season 2. But I watched a couple of episodes of Ahsoka, and I thought, you know what, I'll stick by it. You know, we'll get there. And then I put the Wheel of Time season 2 on, and I was blown away by the quality of the acting in that versus the quality of acting in Ahsoka. And these are our top, you know, Disney is the top movie company in the world. So if Rosario Dawson can't act at that level, then she should never be in Ahsoka. Or is she being directed to be like that, in which case it's not quite working. I don't know what the answer is, because I'm not seeing Rosario in any other show, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? I think there's been debate, like, just because she visually, you know, her appearance looks great in the character and everything, was she the right choice, you know, for the casting? It's personal preference and stuff up to that point. I'm hoping that some of these events that have happened are going to showcase, like, her in a different light going forward, and we might see more of that connection of her in, you know, in the Clone Wars or Rebels, and how she was. I think we'll see, but yeah, it's always tough. And I think I can totally understand where you're coming from, like the kind of dry performances. And yeah, like you're saying, you're watching the Wheel of Time. Like, my wife and I have been going through the Peaky Blinders series over the last month and a half, and just like the acting performances, like, for us in that show, are just like 100% committed, and it's amazing. Like, the emotion and the aggression, like, just everything, you feel it all. I wish we could get a little bit more of that in Star Wars, but I don't know what the reasoning is for treading lightly on going too deep into, you know, whatever emotion is needed in the scenes.
The last bit I'm going to nitpick is the lightsaber, because it's, you know, in the original movies, a lightsaber was the ultimate weapon. Now we're seeing people surviving very, very deadly lightsaber blades. Again, for those who haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it too much, but if a lightsaber goes straight through and comes back out again, then I'm pretty sure there wasn't any backdive even applied. How on earth can somebody survive that? I mean, yes, on Dark Forces 2, you could press F5 and do force healing, but I don't think this is possible. So I want to see a bit more realism, because the lightsaber now, it's losing its effect. I mean, yes, there'll be those who argue that, you know, Darth Maul survived. Yes, he did, and I kind of get the whole he survived through his intense hatred, but Qui-Gon Jinn was run through and died, you know, so he was an incredibly strong Force user. Are you telling me that this character who had who can barely touch the Force could survive?
I know. I've seen breakdowns of, like, the anatomy of where, like, the stabs were with lightsabers, and, like, internal organ potential damage, like, breakdown and all this stuff between Qui-Gon and Ahsoka, and then Reva from Kenobi, and so I mean, you gotta love the passion of Star Wars fans. They'll break down anything if there's a debate. But I mean, I think that story choice was a bit weak as far as getting stabbed with the lightsaber. I think they could have come up with something a little bit more, I guess, realistic in universe.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com. for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Right, so this was going to be the main part of the show, and that was
Right.
the idea, but we've talked so much on that Ahsoka, so I haven't looked forward to this as well. So I thought, well, we'll have a look at Ahsoka collectibles, and I only knew this was really a big thing when I was talking to Pete Davis, co-host of Vintage Rebellion podcast, and he mentioned that he was after an Ahsoka Hasbro figure. And I said it was something like £90, and I was like, you're joking, aren't you? He says, no, you just can't get it. So using Chris B's website, JediBusiness.com, I started having a look at what Ahsoka characters were. Then I was going to eBay, and I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be paying for one of these. And then obviously Dave Quinn hiked the price of Ahsoka up so much by loving Ahsoka. I'm talking about so much. But you've listed quite a few different collectibles here where we think, if you were really invested in Ahsoka and you wanted some really nice pieces, this is probably what you're going ahead, but it's going to cost you, certainly some of them. So
Definitely.
So what's the first figure that you bought with?
All right, first thing I'm putting on the table, it's our first figure from 2008 Clone Wars release. This is her figure that comes with Rada the Huttlet. This was available in it's like the Clone Trooper helmet packaging. And it coincided with the movie release and huge lineup of figures available. But this is her first figure. It's her in her Padawan gear, her questionable tube top, and she's got the backpack for Rada, soft goods, little skirt, and she's got her one lightsaber because she only had one lightsaber to begin with. Yeah, this was probably the most widely available figure, probably the cheapest one, from the Clone Wars era. This was available not only in that package, but it was repacked in 2 other types of packaging for later series releases, as well as in quite a few like battle packs with other figures and or 2 packs. So yeah, solid figure to start off a collection. Loose, it's not going to run you a ton, but when you start getting into like a high graded carded example or a foreign variant for any of these, obviously the price and demand is going to go up from there.
Yeah, that is a good figure. I like that one. I was a fan of the Clone Wars figures when they first came out. Quite heavily articulated, weren't they, from memory?
Yeah. This one, I forget how many points of articulation, maybe like 15 or 17, something like that. Yeah, ball joint, ankles, knees, shoulders, waist swivel, hips, all that stuff. So you get quite a bit of, posability with this particular figure. She is like dainty. She's so like they, if they're played with and stuff, you can lose some limbs fairly easily. But again, a nice one that's not played with. I mean, it's not going to run you a ton loose, $10-15. So yeah.
Wow, I thought they'd be a lot more pricey than that, 10-15.
Yeah, I mean, carded ones. This particular one, I would have to check, but it's probably if it's a not mint card back and stuff, you're probably talking $30 to $50 shipped, depending on that. Foreign variants for this one, I've got one. Very, very difficult to find. So probably expect, easily probably $100 to $150 range.
The next item they picked really surprised me because without looking at the image, I would never have pictured Ahsoka as a vehicle.
Yeah. It's her Jedi Starfighter. It's just a repainted Obi-Wan Kenobi Starfighter, but she did have it in the Clone Wars season. I think she only had it for like one episode, some space battle above Ryloth. But I really like this one. I think it adds something different to a collection. So it's got spot for astromech droid. It splits up in 2 pieces. If you saw it, you would definitely recognize it, similar to Anakin's Starfighter from I think it's like the Revenge of the Sith line, and maybe re-released again after that. But Yeah, I think it's cool. I had picked up one loose early on in my Star Wars collecting when I got back in like 2015, 2016, but they're tough to find in really good shape if they're loose these days. You're probably looking, I don't know, $75 to $125 loose and $150 to $250 boxed. And then there are foreign variants as well for the boxed versions, so you can expect those to be, they're probably $175 to $300 at this point if you find a sealed one.
Wow. Again, I just couldn't comprehend prices of, modern rising that high. But wow, I guess though for many collectors that is their Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. And prices have come down a little bit, even from a couple of years ago during the height of the pandemic. A lot of these prices were a bit higher, but they're still, they've kind of found a higher floor price wise than 4 or 5, 6 years ago.
Now the next thing that you put on the show notes, I absolutely can't buy into, because you're taking us right into the EU here. Although I think this story probably maybe classed as canon now. So from the Dark Horse Star Wars The Clone Wars line.
Yes, this was the Clone Wars in comic book form through Dark Horse, and I believe it's Henry Gilroy was the main writer, and the regular release of the comic has Anakin and Ahsoka looking out through a viewport, seeing the Republic cruisers going off into battle, and just an amazing image. And it was drawn by Dave Filoni. This comic was for a long time in dollar bins. Nobody cared about it. Didn't really have too much value. But then I think it was probably starting in like 2016, 2017, it started gaining traction and really shot up in value since then. It did have, again, during the pandemic, had really high highs. It's come back to reality a little bit. But I mean, if you're talking about a direct edition 9.8, CGC 9.8 graded copy, you're talking at least $1,200 to $1,500. A newsstand version in a 9.8, you're talking significantly more than that, probably closer to $4,000. Yeah, so it's not an easy one to obtain these days in higher grade.
I mean, that's absolutely crazy money. I spend all day talking about how pointless grading comics is for me, because I just don't buy into it at all. But I mean, each to their own.
Yeah.
Next item is instantly recognizable, I think, to anybody who has, enjoyed the Clone Wars. Wonderful, wonderful poster that you picked out there. Yes,
this is the theatrical poster for the Clone Wars movie. And I specifically picked out the 27-inch by 40-inch double-sided version of the poster. Official release, all that stuff. I mean, there's plenty of knockoffs and stuff online, but this is the real deal, the one that would have been in a showcase in the movie theater. Can be backlit, so it shines through the image of the poster. I just think this is a great image with, you've got Yoda in the forefront, Anakin flanked by Obi-Wan, and then you've got Ahsoka just behind Obi-Wan. And I just love this image. I have this poster. I got it, was it earlier this year? Got a nice big movie theater poster for it. Yeah, for anybody that saw this movie in the theaters or grew up with seeing the movie at a younger age, I think it's a pretty iconic image.
Now, the next item you've put is Gentle Giant life-size promotional statue dream item. Now, yeah, I just want to say, actually, I know what that is, but in my local comic book store, they have a Clone Wars Yoda, and it's about 4 foot high, possibly, maybe a touch shorter. Quite a big, chunky item. Would that be similar to this, a Gentle Giant life-size promotional Yoda?
I think it might have been in the same line as these life-size statues from what I remember. But yeah, so this is my like a dream item for me. I think they only made about 10 or 12 of them in the States. And so it's Ahsoka in her early outfit. And then they also had an Obi-Wan and a Rex, Captain Rex. And these were for, I don't know, stores or, what at Lucasfilm or I don't know, wherever they were supposed to be. But I had an opportunity, it was like 3 years ago, to buy one of these. And I was like, I need to have this thing. And it was in Rhode Island, which is 2 hours away from me. And I told the guy I'd give him even more than what he was asking. I'd come down right now. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're second in line."
Oh.
And I'm like, "You got to be kidding." He's like, "Yeah, this other person's driving from Alabama like next week." And I'm like, "I'll come right now," and so I was bummed to miss out on it. But it's a awesome piece. I didn't know how I was going to explain to my wife if I showed up with this thing or where it would go. But nonetheless, I know Steve Sansweet has this same statue in Rancho Obi-Wan. And so if anybody's ever been there or gets a chance to go in there, he's got his Ahsoka statue on display. But yeah, there's some images here or there. I found them on Rebel Scum. But yeah, it's just a cool item. And if you're looking to diversify your Ahsoka collection, that might be a major centerpiece.
But just don't buy one until you've got yours first.
Exactly.
The next item, I think, is my favourite representation of Ahsoka in any kind of toy line.
I agree 100%. This is my favorite figure of hers. This is Ahsoka in her quote-unquote new outfit from Season 3. It's designated as CW44 in the it's like a blue cardback packaging, and she comes again with a cloth goods skirt, but now she has ditched the tube top and she's got a full outfit, and she now has her 2 lightsabers. And I really love this figure. It's got quite a bit of articulation. This is the one that the value has jumped quite a bit. It's hard to find these carded in like gradable condition, like really nice condition. And even the loose versions of this figure complete are going for anywhere between like $50 and $100, and carded versions, depending on the condition, $100 to $150. And then there's, from my research, there's 3 other foreign variants, carded variants of this figure. Like with most foreign things, the value goes up significantly trying to hunt those things down. But yeah, by far my favorite 3 3/4 inch Ahsoka figure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's odd because you'd expect your next one to be, so the Vintage Collection, well known for producing some, really good, screen accurate, excellent representations of some of our figures. But for me, sometimes they just don't quite get them right. And that is true of this one for me.
Yeah, I agree. This one, I wasn't collecting at this time, but when this figure came out, it was a fan channel exclusive. So it was really tough to find. This is Vintage Collection Ahsoka, but made to look like live action in 3 3/4 inch form. Great artwork on the card back, and VC 102. And she comes with 2 lit lightsabers and 2 hilts. But yeah, the face sculpt on this one, not the greatest interpretation. I think the body and the rest of the figure looks really good, but I think it's the sculpting of the face that leaves a little bit to be desired there. Yeah, again, this one's jumped up significantly in value. Really difficult to find a carded example for less than $100. Most of them are, minimum of $125 to $150, depending on condition. Graded examples go up from there. There are a couple other foreign variants for this one, and again, falls right in line with value and scarcity for those. But we've seen several reissues of this figure, 3 3/4 inch Black Series. line. I think that was in 2016 or so. And then we've seen this figure released, I think earlier this year, recarded with some paint app updates. And it's obvious the way it's packaged, it's different. The way it's in the bubble and everything in the back is clear that it's been a reissue. But there is one tell to know if the loose figure is from the original VC 102 release, and that is if you look at the back of her knees, if they're unpainted. Yeah, this is you get into the weeds when you're a Focus collector.
Yeah, you do.
And you can notice that if they're unpainted hinge joints in the knee, then it's an original from 2012. Yeah, 2012.
Hello, this is Sam Whitwer, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks.
We've gone from, the toys and everything. Now we're jumping into 1-to-1 scale, if you want to call these role play or whatever. But these are life-size hilts from Disney's Galaxy's Edge. And these are Ahsoka's either Rebels or Mandalorian version lightsabers. And so this kit was limited edition. There's several different releases at Galaxy's Edge, so there's some slight differences here and there. Their packaging could be different. This particular packaging, this is the set that I have, and I think it was limited to 2,500, and it comes in a wooden box, and it's all beautifully painted on the exterior with all Arabesh writing and Ahsoka's images, her facial tattoos and stuff like that. It's all inlaid on there. And then you open it up and it starts playing Ahsoka's theme. Just really, really nice display. And they're super heavy, all die cast or metal or whatever. And then you can do the sounds with them, and you can add lightsaber blades to them as well.
Yeah,
not cheap.
Wonderful.
Not cheap.
No, but wonderful items though. I mean, they're great display piece. Those, I do like them.
Yeah. I mean, these ones retailed for $400, but I think they're selling between $500 and $600 currently. This limited edition set.
Now, obviously, we expected you to put a hot toy in there, and you don't disappoint at all, Chris. Yeah, we've talked about this before, but I do really, really like this hot toy Ahsoka you've picked. But you certainly surprised us with your second pick as well.
Yeah. So this is Ahsoka from Clone Wars Season 7, but it's meant to look realistic. And at the time, Hot Toys had never done a animated character in a live action form, and we're talking about Hot Toys, a 6-scale high-end figure collecting. They'd done the figures from the movies, from the TV shows and the like, but when this dropped, it was pandemonium in the 6-scale community. Everybody went nuts. And on our 6-scale scavengers show, we had an emergency live stream to go over it. And this is again, it's her aesthetic, her outfit change going into the last arc of season 7 of Clone Wars, a little bit more sophisticated. She's got some armor on her shins, knee pads. She's got forearm gauntlets. Yeah, I mean, I love this figure. It's been out for a while now. Sideshow's having all kinds of discounts on it. It seems like they made a ton of them, so you can get this figure for a good price now below retail. Articulate's great. You just have to be careful. This has seamless arms, so there's no joint in the arm in the material that is used on the arms. You just want to be careful with that. But I love this figure. You can move the eyes, do all sorts of cool poses, and yeah, just a top-notch figure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just been on the website there, so you can get it for $250. And there's 286 people viewing it right now, according to the website, if you believe that stat. But that seems a bargain. It absolutely seems a bargain if that price is genuine. Yeah,
and if you check eBay prices and stuff, some people have got them for as low as $225. I saw one sell that was sealed for $200. So I would definitely shop around I think a lot of retailers still have this figure in stock, aside from Sideshow.
Right, and then the next item, I mean, did you do a live stream of this one on your podcast?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so sticking with the Hot Toys, theme, I've got the Mandalorian Ahsoka. So we've got the Hot Toys version of her from her appearance in season 2 of The Mandalorian, and they had 2 different versions of this one. This came out in the DX line, which is like kind of extended deluxe line where you've got extra fabric materials, you've got the eye rolling technology, you've got extra posability, and just an amazing figure. I got this one in hand. I actually upgraded with some custom light up lightsabers that just came in recently for it. I will say since this figure's been out for a little while, I do really hope that Hot Toys can get the likeness closer to Rosario Dawson for the next version of this figure in 6-scale form. I think it's in certain angles it's there, but others it's not. But I think the figure overall just has so many positives that I can overlook, the face sculpt being about, I'd say it's like 85% there. Yeah, just an amazing figure, and in hand it photographs well and looks really good up on the shelf.
Well, you see, I like the fact that it's not a perfect likeness, because I used to think that about the covers on the old Bantam books, when Leia and Han especially weren't quite.
Yeah.
But over time you start to realise, that they should be like that, because we're not looking at Rosario Dawson, we're looking at Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, it's an
and obviously
interpretation.
she's evolved from the cartoon version of, so I actually like
absolutely.
it.
That's a good way to look at it.
I do. I like it. I mean, the next item you put there, which is the last item you've got to focus on, I must admit, I'm a little bit disappointed in this one.
All right, I want to hear your thoughts. This isn't one that I have. I was trying. I wanted to give just another type of collectible that's out there for collectors. This is we're talking about Sideshow, and this is their premium format statue line, and this is in quarter scale, so quite a bit bigger than the Hot Toys. And with Sideshow, and again, I'll caveat, like, I've never had one of these. I have seen them in person, but the premium formats have mixed media, so it's got different elements on it, cloth elements. It's got different materials used for them. For me, this figure in a vacuum, like, it could, if you're an Ahsoka fan and you just want one piece, I could see this potentially being that, because it's pretty expensive. They retail for over $600 from Sideshow, and then you've got to factor in shipping and all that. So from that aspect, it has a lot of presence. If you had it, in a lit up display or whatnot, does it work 100%? No. It's just a different type of collectible available out there for, Ahsoka collectors. So what are your thoughts on it?
Right, so it's a premium item. You're right. It's great quality, but to me, both the sabers look cheap. They look very, very cheap.
Okay, yep.
And if you remove the head, I would argue that that's a Lord of the Rings character, because it doesn't feel Star Wars to me. It feels like orcs and elven costumes.
Elven, definitely.
Yes,
yep.
That's what it's like, and it's pulling me out of Star Wars. And yeah, I mean, it looks too leather and orc and not enough, material and robes for me. It's certainly, I would rather have had the Hot Toys.
Yeah, and there's definitely arguments to be had. How some of these figures do come out, and how do they look in person versus the promotional images and all that sort of thing. But it's out there. I mean, it's still available. I can see that another version down the line coming that could potentially trump this one, and that can be said with a lot of these types of newer collectibles, it's like the next one is always the better one. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of a snapshot of what's out there. I mean, really, the collectibles for Ahsoka, it's pretty much endless at this point. There was a time period, maybe about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when Ahsoka was in Rebels. I mean, there was not much to collect. But now, I mean, it's just endless amounts of prints and lots of newer comics, variant covers. Don't even get me started with trading cards. I mean, it's endless amounts. You can get ones that are autographed by Ashley Eckstein, ones that are autographed by Rosario Dawson, all different plush Ahsokas, Funkos. She's got a number of Lego, sets that she's in Lego. Pins, patches, books, roleplay, miniatures, video games, you name it, it's out there. Clothing. I mean, you could have your Ahsoka sneakers with your Ahsoka pants, with your Ahsoka shirt, your sweatshirt, your backpack, your hat, your watch. Like it's pretty crazy now. And you can represent in whatever degree you want these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's wonderful to see Ahsoka cosplayers at Celebration. I think that's great, because especially seeing the younger children, she is an inspiration for them. I do have the Ahsoka novel, but I honestly don't think I've read it, so it's something I'm going to have to do at some point. I'm busy reading a novel, so once I get that one finished, I may pick up Ahsoka next. But Chris, I mean, thank you very much for this run through. I mean, you've really led me through this. There's seen some things I've never seen before, and some things I really would like. I think, certainly one of those Hot Toys pieces. Well, many thanks for your time on this show, Chris, and I hope our listeners have got a lot of Ahsoka goodness out of this and go out and pick some pieces up.
It was a great chat. Yeah, like we said, there's plenty of places to start if you don't have anything in your collection so far.
So thanks for listening to Collecting Tracks. If you want to be part of the action, stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds @FanthaTracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Andy Lythe for our Collecting Tracks open music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine, live Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. Check out Fantha Tracks Radio Friday evenings at 7 p.m. UK time for new episodes of The Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks and Cannon Fodder, and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.